Hello, welcome back to another Swans cast match preview, where I am joined by Matt from the Elm Park Royals Podcast. Is that correct? Have I said it right?
That is correct. You did a much
Okay.
better job than I did with your podcast, which I can only apologise for.
No, that's all good. I literally panicked in it for a second. So when the intro was rolling, I opened up Twitter quick to get it in front of me so I couldn't make a mistake. Classic. But yeah, so we're here to talk about, obviously, Swansea against Reading, which is going to be happening Tuesday evening at the Swansea.com stadium. I didn't actually manage to get a preview out for the Burnley game last week, but to be fair, after seeing the result, it's best that there's never any record of what happened. So it's probably a good thing I never talked about it before, because it just means we can forget about it. And we'll move straight on after a 4-game winning streak to Reading at home. So Matt, would you like to update or inform us all how have Reading found the season so far? So for me, you're doing quite well, I think, from the outside. I expected you to perhaps be a lot lower down, if I'm being completely honest. Maybe that's influenced by media, but the bookies had you down there. All the talk about your troubles with finances, but you're finding yourself currently in 6th position. So how's the season been?
Unexpectedly positive, I would say. It's been a weird season because I think, you talk about all the troubles we had pre-season. We had 6 players in contract at the end of last season. For this season, we had a third season straight of a solid transfer embargo where we can't sign players for any sort of transfer fee. And I think it's about the 5th season where we've actually been under an embargo. Previously, we were under soft embargoes. Now we're 3 years of permanent embargo. So, I can't lie. I don't begrudge any podcast, any fan for kind of predicting Reading to be down the bottom, because pretty much I had Reading at 24th, 23rd position in my predictions for this season. It was, it was looking pretty grim, really, I think, pre-season. But I mean, what has changed with Reading FC so far this season? I don't really think many people know. Paul Ince seemingly has brought in a resilience to this team, a bit of passion, a bit of desire. I know it's quite cliche for people to chuck around stuff like that, but it's something that's been missing from Reading for quite some time. A lot of that's been down to obviously the personnel that's been brought in, not the right players, not the right attitudes, coaches, people behind the scenes not knowing how to run a football club. So with that kind of change, we had a lot of change behind the scenes in the summer as well. We had Mark Bowen coming in, director of football, which was long overdue. We direly needed a director of football, a head of recruitment as well, new academy structure. So there was a lot of change behind the scenes in the summer. Whether that's kickstarted kind of a bit of a change of culture within the club, I don't know. But so far, really, this season, we've been tanked a few times, though. In losses, we never seem to lose by 1 or 2 goals. When we lose, we lose. But yeah, it's just been unexpectedly positive so far.
Well, you said about the resilience that Paul Ince has brought in, and I would like to take that moment to say we know all about that after the game up at your place last year when we were flying high 4-1. I was in the stands, loving my life. Only to have... I mean, it's a draw away, but it was still an absolutely miserable sort of return journey.
If ever you're going to have probably a 4-4 loss, that was probably it, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
and a 4-4 win on the other side of things.
Like you always say, an away point's good, but when you've got a 3-goal advantage, it doesn't feel good.
No,
but
I
yes,
can imagine.
We know all about that resilience. So I know you're saying you can't necessarily sign players for a fee, but did anyone come in the summer that's kind of changed your team or added to what you've got here already?
Yeah, I mean, to list, I think it was about 15 players, I think, or so was brought in at the end of last season, or some of them were players that were at Reading last season and were re-signed. So the likes of Andy Yeardham was out of contract, re-signed. Tom Holmes out of contract, re-signed. Tom Ince was on loan at the end of last season. He then signed on a free transfer. So you had those, but then you also had the likes of Tyrese Forner, who came in on loan, and so far this season has been quite a revelation. So far this season, Joe Lumley in goal, had one wobbly game, really, or wobbly would be an understatement, at Rotherham. Since then, has actually been relatively okay. Not really pulled up any trees, but not done a lot wrong at the same time. Been reliable and kind of a calming influence as a goalkeeper at the back, which was a bit unexpected. Jeff Hendrick, midfielder, Sam Hutchinson, defender, Baba Rahman, left back on loan. So Shane Long as well, the prodigal son, returning to to Reading. So it was a big summer of change. So many players came in. Obviously, needed to happen when you're only left with 6 players on your books.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How has Shane Long got on? I mean, obviously he had a very good time when he was with you before. I feel like his goal scoring's eased up as he's got on through his career.
Yes, yeah. Well, even in his time at Reading, I mean, he was never loved at Reading almost for his goal scoring. He had that one very good season where we got obviously to the playoff final against you guys and lost.
I wasn't fishing for that. Where
but apart from that season, it was just his work ethic. And seemingly he's someone that, to be fair, he came over to Reading when he was 17, 18 years old. In our 05-06 season, had a bit of a kind of year kind of bedding in that season and then kind of flourished from there. But it was just almost his work rate at Reading FC that got him so loved by Reading fans. Was never the best scorer, was never the best finisher. He would just always give 110% for the shirt every single week, every single time he walked out onto that pitch. And it's kind of been the same when he's come back. Goal scoring, obviously, he's only, I think, scored 1 goal so far this season. He's had chances, fluffed a few, I won't lie. There was one at Millwall away where he was 1-on-1, and I still don't know how he put it about 3-4 yards wide. And there's been a couple kind of spooned over from like 6 yards and that. So it's not quite been a goal scoring return, but it's just more given a boost because whenever he comes on, the fans love him. I don't think that will ever change, really. Reading fans love for Shane Long, and I mean, I love having him back. Hopefully he'll end up retiring at Reading. He can still do a job though, because he runs his socks off still, presses the back line, and for a relatively short striker makes a nuisance of himself against defenders. So, which is all you can really ask of a player.
So going into this game, obviously we spoke just now in your own video, Swansea had, other than the 4-0 defeat to Burnley, a 4-match winning run. But you guys have not won in the last 3 games, correct? Back-to-back defeats as well. So
correct. Yes.
How is your form just tailing off? Like, how do you feel going into this? Does the results look worse than perhaps the performances?
It's a difficult one at the moment because, I mean, to be fair, are we going to be up towards the top 6 at the end of the season? Probably not. I think most Reading fans, even though there's some podcasts out there that obviously Reading fans like to slate for what they say about Reading FC, in my opinion, they don't say a huge amount wrong about Reading. Our squad depth isn't the best. We are using the same 13, 14 players week on week, which is always going to be hard in a division like the Championship. So, and I think you're kind of seeing it with the likes of Tom Ince, where he started the season, would not stop running. He was like a AA Duracell bunny running around, on supercharge. Would never stop running, but even him in the last couple of games has dipped off a little bit. Interestingly, the Norwich draw was very good. It was probably the best we'd played for a while, that Norwich 1-1. But the QPR game, I mean, it was on TV, so probably a few people saw it. We just sat in and, we were just almost content to... My view of that game was we were just playing for a draw, and that was it pretty much. Which draw away from home's always a good point, but yeah, it wasn't the best showing really. And then West Brom at the weekend yesterday, it was just flat. It was just flat all over the pitch, and only really when it went 2-0 to West Brom did the players seemingly wake up. But it's, as they always say, it's easy to play football 2-0 down. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because we need to bounce back. You never want to go 4 games unbeaten, 3-game losing streak, and all of this. So it'll be interesting to see how Reading bounce back from this. But obviously, Swansea are in the same situation after the game at the weekend.
Yeah, definitely looking to bounce back. And I wouldn't have minded losing to Burnley top of the league, but it's getting thumped. It's like, right, show that you could put that behind you, and it was kind of a one-off. If you lose 1-0 up there, it's not, no one cares, not really talked about, I think. It's just because you shipped 4 goals. So it's kind of like all the hard work undone a little bit, but we'll see what happens. Do you think the West Brom was perhaps new manager bounce, or do you think it was tiredness creeping in definitely as well?
Probably a bit of tiredness, which isn't a good sign when you're starting to play Saturday, Tuesday. I know. Yeah. I mean, West Brom fans were certainly waxing lyrical kind of about how different they looked. So maybe it was a bit of new manager bounce as well. Or certainly the kind of releasing the shackles of the Steve Bruce era.
I don't get why they keep assigning the managers like that. The classic ones, that come in, they do the journey around the Football League, and same thing happens every
merry-go-round.
Yeah, it's always the same. Oh, he's experienced, he'll keep us up, or he'll do us a job, he'll get us a promotion. It just never works. But there we go. I'm sure if they asked Newcastle fans about Bruce before they took him on, they would have told them all they needed to know. But that's not for this podcast. Let's talk about some players then. Who do you think from the Swansea team you are most worried can do a bit of damage against you guys?
Well, he's kind of stolen my thunder because he was not obviously playing now on Tuesday. It would have been Joel Perreault, obviously, because I know he's dipped off. I mean, you mentioned it in the podcast that we did before, that he's dipped off a little bit. Obviously, I think it was 3-4 goals to start the season, but I just remember the absolute belter that he scored last year at the Medeski, and then obviously followed it up with a penalty. But kind of what players of that quality can do. They never seem to stay quiet for that long. So the fact he was out is kind of a boost for Reading fans on that side of things. Past that, I couldn't really look by Matt Grimes. I'm actually quite looking forward to actually seeing him play as well, because from how he started the season, assisting, running the midfield and everything. I always like going to places and actually seeing good players play football. It was the same when we went to Sheffield Wednesday, seeing the likes of Sander Berg, Ollie Norwood, running the show. It's always nice to actually see those players. But yeah, for me, it'd be Matt Grimes from the Swansea team. I'm kind of looking at thinking, keep him quiet, put a man on him, man mark him, maybe put a bit of a tackle on him. I don't know, but
I mean, he's probably gets a couple of them now. He's not necessarily as soft as perhaps you might think for the player of his style, but he definitely keeps us ticking and is perhaps underappreciated, as I told you in your podcast, by some quarters in the Swansea fan base. But I think he's the sort of player, as soon as you take him out of the team, is immediately noticeable, whereas perhaps you don't notice when he's there because he does his job so well. You just don't see it, if that makes any sense sometimes. But if we're going to play well, he'll be instrumental to pull in the strings around anything that goes forward. Okay, and on the flip side then, who from Reading is going to have to do the damage if you get to take anything away from the game on Tuesday?
It's going to be an interesting one from a Reading perspective, I think, because nobody really knows how we're going to line up front, because kind of Ince has tried to put Zhao and Carroll up together up front, did it against obviously both QPR and West Brom, just didn't work. Lucas Zhao isn't a runner. Andy Carroll, he's not really. No, he will have the ball lumped up to him. He will win the ball every single time. That being said, but if you've not got a runner off the side of him, I mean, it's just not. That's not Lucas Zhao's game. On his day, fantastic striker, but I mean, even he has divided opinion amongst Reading fans this season for lack of work rate, not seeing him interested. wanting the game to come to him, not trying to affect the game. So whether we'll play Carroll and Long up front, whether Long will play up front on his own, no one really knows at this point. But I think probably one player that will need to have firing to kind of get back to the levels we were at the start of the season would be Tom Ince, because we spoke about it just before as well, kind of the effect Tom Ince has had since he came in. I mean, so many people obviously mocked it first time when he came in on loan end of last season, daddy's boy coming in, following Paul Ince about, and no Reading fan really thought he was the player that, you know, we really needed, because he was never renowned for work rate. He was always known as, you know, quite lazy, play when he wants to, kind of what Lucas João's doing this season. But when we've been good, he's been instrumental in our play. He's been, like I say, just running his absolute socks off for 97 minutes. You know, he's still running about after the game's finished. And kind of what he's lost kind of finishing wise, he's kind of seemingly gained in work rate. But if we're going to get, like I say, if we're going to get back to those levels at the start of the season where we were kind of outworking teams, not out, we'd never beat a team on quality. You know, you don't do that when it's a team full of free transfers and loan players. But we would outwork teams, and that's kind of what's been lacking the last few games. And to have that, you really need someone like Tom Ince back up front or back on the wing behind the strikers, pressing the defence, chasing down and affecting the game that way.
So where's he been playing? Has he been playing in like centre midfield?
He's been playing a bit here, there, and everywhere. He's kind of played as a number 10 some weeks next to Lucas João, sometimes next to Long, sometimes playing behind, sometimes playing on the wing. He's been a bit kind of all over the place, really. But wherever he's been played, the one thing that's been a consistent has been his work rate. So he's always been affecting games, really, no matter where he's been, and kind of being a bit of a loudmouth as well. I mean, there's been times in games where he's been, I mean, I thought he was going to pop a vein or something with how much he was shouting at players, mostly Lucas João for not pressing. It has to be said. But yeah, he's been playing here, there, and everywhere. Ironically, didn't actually play at QPR. I don't think he played. I don't think he played actually against West Brom either. But yeah, hopefully he'll be back on Tuesday, backfiring, and yeah.
Yeah. So I tell you what, I'll be interested to know if Paul Ince ever leaves or gets sacked or whatever in the future. Does Tom Ince's performances change?
That's one thing that everyone kind of looks at and thinks, because you kind of look at it and you think, is he playing for the manager? And to be honest, whilst Paul Ince is there, I don't think Reading fans care, because you know, you just want to get results now. And if that's what's helping getting results now, you know, football fans are fickle, and you know, they like I say, they just want to get results now. Will it drop off when he leaves? We'll kind of have to cross that bridge, I think, when we come to it. Hopefully it won't be the case, because if Paul Ince leaves, it probably means that we aren't doing too well. So hopefully it doesn't come to that, but we'll see. I think when he signed in the summer, Paul Ince, I think he was put down on a 3-year contract or something, which is, I'm not too sure about the length of that. It kind of screams of what we've had before with managers, and then you have big payouts for when they inevitably do get sacked, seemingly at Reading. But
that's every club these days, to be fair.
It's a brutal game now, and kind of not quite on Watford levels, it has to be said, for managers. But
yeah, that's there's someone else. Okay, let's wrap up with a prediction then. How do you think this game is going to go?
I mean, we kind of mentioned it on the podcast before with Reading. If there's a bogey team or a team that epitomizes a bogey team for Reading FC, it's Swansea. We just never win. I think it's like 1 win in 18 against you guys. It's like, and that's since like 2008 in all competitions, 1 in 16 in the league. It's never a happy hunting ground for Reading playing Swansea. If you could give me a draw, I'd happily take a draw. 0-0 does me, you know. yeah, 0-0, 1-1. Give me a draw. I'll snap your hand off for that. So fingers crossed for that. If we do somehow find a win, even better. But yeah.
Well, good luck. I think we need to bounce back, so I'm hoping to see that happen, but we'll have to wait to Tuesday to find out. Could be an interesting game. Hopefully we remain to be your bogey team. But if that is the case, best of luck after the game. Until, well, other than the return fixture, of course. But thank you very much for joining me for this for the preview. Hope if you are coming down on Tuesday, hope you have a safe journey and enjoy the match.
Yes. Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks. That's all right. And we shall see you in the next video, guys. As always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Should be the latest podcast should be out, I believe, Tuesday or Wednesday. So keep an eye out for that. And we shall see you later. So thank you again, Matt, and see you guys later.